Hey everybody, Plushie here, and today I just want to make a video updating all my 120 servants and then talking about them, because I made a similar video last year talking about all my Grailed servants, and I grailed a bunch of servants to 120 for the past year. So I just wanted to make a similar video and sort of updating you guys on my 120 servant situation. I know not everybody follows this channel like super closely, so they might not know all my 120s, because yes, I do make videos with all of them, but some more than others. And I just thought it was an interesting concept regardless. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into today's video. So my first 120 servant is going to be Durga, or Kali, and she was already at 120 last year when I made my Grailed servants video. So this is old news, and I basically grailed solely because of her aesthetic. I mean, most of these I grailed because I liked their character and aesthetic, but I want to emphasize this because her gameplay really does not intrigue me. She's just an AoE arts looper with a double quick double arts deck. But with Summer Tiamat, the deck might actually be a good thing instead of a negative, so you might be seeing her more often in the future. And my gacha experience with Durga was horrible. I think I spent a total of almost 4,000 quartz for 6 copies. Like, it's not the worst thing ever, average honestly, but the first few copies were like really bad, so that's why I remember it very well. And I might make her my Grand Archer if the Grand Raid is AoE compatible, because she's blue. She would look really good with that blue border compared to my other 120 Archer, Bavanshi. Speaking of Bavanshi, that's my second 120 I'm going to talk about, and I 120'd her last year, so I don't believe she was 120 in my previous video. I 120'd her when she got her MP upgrade, which was pretty impactful. She now scales a super effective according to how many curse stacks are on the enemies, and you can easily trigger that by giving her curse command codes. So she is now one of the highest damaging single target archers in the game that has really high ramping potential as well. So her gameplay is actually really good now. I've always liked Bavanshi. She is arguably one of the most popular fairy knights out of the 3, I would say. And initially I really liked her because of her 3rd ascension design actually, but they ended up not using it a lot. I know because her story is very tragic, nobody wants to see her suffer, but it's a bit of a missed opportunity that they didn't at least allow it to show up once, in my opinion, in Lost Belt 6. I got enough copies for her 120 all the way back in the Medusa Saber event, but I just never actually had the incentive to level her to 120 until she got that buff. So yeah, pretty exciting. Again, she's another DPS with double quick double arts decks, so you might see her more in the future because of Summer Tiamat. The next 120 I want to talk about is Summer Carmilla, and this is my first ever 120, and she was the reason I started JP actually. I saw her revealed during the anniversary stream and I couldn't wait, so I downloaded the JP server. She's kind of been the butt of the joke of the channel for a very long time with all the divorce stuff, but you know, rest assured she is still one of my all-time favorite characters. It's just that her gameplay is not the most exciting, unfortunately. I would say she's easily the weakest in terms of gameplay out of all my 120s, but she's still seeing some play, especially recently because of the Grand Rider raids, and she was my only candidate. So you know, I'm starting to use Carmilla again. She's yet again another DPS with double quick double arts deck, so benefits from Summer Tiamat as well. And unfortunately, ever since the tragic passing of her voice actress, I don't like to use her that much, just because whenever I hear her voice, it makes me a little bit sad. I know some people are going to say this is an excuse, but that is actually the reality of things. I avoid using Carmilla too much, same as Medea, just because it really breaks my heart whenever I hear her voice now. But you know, still a cool character. I mean, I granded her recently, so I farmed grand raids quite a bit with her. So yeah, she's still seeing play, and she might see even more play in the future, like I said. The next servant I want to introduce is, of course, the first Koyanskaya of Light. I've always been known more for Koyan Dark, I would say, but obviously I like both of them equally. I believe she was already 120 the last time I made the video. I 120 both Koya and Skyas relatively early on, so you all already know her story. You know, I like her animations better than Koyan Dark actually, because Koyan Dark recycles a bunch of enemy just trash mob animations in her first and second ascension, while Koyan Light just has a bunch of different weapons and vehicles and military gear that she just, you know, pulls out of nowhere. But I think her animations are way more fun than Koyan Dark. The reason I use Koyan Dark more is just because Koyan Dark is a better DPS, as much as I complain about it. Koyan Light, one of the biggest weaknesses, honestly, is that you can't run a third Koyan Light on your team. So her battery's cooldown is too long. Like, she can't really get it back easily, even with 2 Koyan Lights together. And also, her like self buffs are not as good if you just put it on herself compared to Koyan Dark. So there's not that much opportunity to use her as DPS. She's like okay. I've been trying to use her in min turns. If you don't see her do a min turn, that means I failed. Basically, I think I try to use her at least every challenge quest a little bit, but you know, it doesn't always work out. But Koyan Light, most likely going to be my Grand Assassin, actually, because she is my favorite character currently in the game. You know, unless the farming is like super single target oriented, I might Grand Kama and then use a compass to switch to Koyan Light. Speaking of Kama, the next 120 I want to talk about is Kama. Kama, I also 120'd in the past year, so I don't believe she was 120 in my previous video. And very similar to Bavanshi, I 120'd her because of her MP upgrade. One of the most ridiculous MP upgrades we've ever seen in the game, where she has anti-charm, and then the MP applies charm before damage. So it's basically just always going to trigger unless the enemy has ways to block her charm. And I don't know if they're ever gonna do this again. This is so ridiculous. This has made her like one of the highest damaging single targets in the game, period. And she doesn't even need a skill to do it. She can just repeatedly trigger this whenever she uses her MP. So one of the best characters like DPS in the game. Kama, I've liked her for a long time. I've had her at level 100 for the longest time, but she was MP4, so during her rerun and her buff, I had to roll for a 5th copy, and I bought another copy. I think she was one of the first times I spent USOs on an MP6, and yeah, there you go, that's Kama at 120. I haven't actually used her that much, I would say. Like, I started using her a bunch after I 120'd her, but it started tapering off near the start of this year, and then I just completely stopped using her because there are so many 120s that I have now that I need to like rotate around in terms of making content. So I apologize, Kama, but hopefully I'll use you a little bit more in the future. Speaking of anti-charm units, this is the first new servant of the year that I 120'd, Lilith. Lilith is a character that I feel like nobody's surprised that I like. She's just that kind of character, and she was obviously a really fun character in Ordeal Call 4 as well. I love her ship with Mash. You know, the thought of Lilith kissing me is awesome, but the thought of Lilith kissing Mash is divine. But all jokes aside, Lilith, absolute top tier. I would say arguably the strongest single target in the game right now, especially if you care about farming. She's basically Kintoki with a universal anti-trait with the anti-charm. Her damage is just absolutely ridiculous and through the roof. But of course, I grilled her because I like her design and her character. Her design is honestly one of the most obvious ever in Fate, I would say, because when she showed up in the Ordeal Call teaser all the way back, people were saying, oh, this must be Lilith because of her design, to the point that I thought it was for sure not gonna be Lilith, because Fate never does anything that is that obvious, but ended up being obvious. It was indeed Lilith. And I really like her aesthetics. I like both her 3rd Ascension form. I actually like her voice lines in there more of a mature mother type character, but also her 1st and 2nd Ascension, more playful, and the attack animations I like a bit more actually with the scissors. And overall, just a really fun character. I got super lucky with her gacha as well. I think I got 5 copies within like 1,000 quartz, which was really good. And then I bought the 6th copy, just like Kama. So Lilith, also one of my fastest Bond 15 servants ever, just because how good she is at raiding. I think I Bond 15 her during the Grand Berserker raid, which was just a couple weeks after her release. So, you know, just proves how good she is at farming. And I farmed a bunch with her again in the most recent Noah's Ark raid. I think I farmed like 400, almost 500 raids, and it was all thanks to Lilith. In terms of like my content with Lilith, I feel like I've done quite a bit. I just, you know, uploaded a video yesterday as well using her in the Minturn, but again, her usage slightly tapered off, partially because I have a lot of 120s to play with, and also partially because she's such a popular 120 that if I want to do a Minturn with her, I have to compete with a bunch of other people who are probably rushing to try out the Minturn with her. So I tend to like to pick less popular characters like Koyan Dark or like, I guess, Typhon at this point, to try Minturns, because, you know, I'm going to be the first one to do it with those characters rather than Lilith, who is super competitive. The next 120 I want to talk about is, of course, OG Kiara. I mean, Kiara has a very special place on my channel because she's one of my favorite bosses I like to demonstrate on, but also I just really like Kiara as a character, even all the way back in NA. Like, I was looking through SSRs that I might potentially want to pull in the future when I first started the game, and her design really caught my eye. I liked her nun outfit, I liked her beast outfit, just everything feels really perfect. And then I obviously played the Seraph event, and she was wonderful in that as well as a villain. The main push for her 120 in JP is, of course, her appearance in Order Call 3 and her animation update. I really liked it. They added more voice lines for her as well in her first ascension to make her sound a little bit more docile. I think that's a really cool idea. And also, you know, I know a lot of people don't like her new MP animation, but I personally like it a lot. I like the new angle, the new like art just made for that specific MP as well. And it also reflects her ascension, which is, you know, not something they always do nowadays with new servants. So it's cool that they at least keep it for older servants when they update them. And overall, just, yeah, a really, really nice character. I like Kiara a lot. I also really like her voice actress. She's a very fun personality. She loves cosplaying characters she voiced, including Kiara, which is a blessing as well. And she also got a buff during Ordeal Call 3. Initially, I was not a big fan of it because it's less selfish DPS oriented, but more like team support oriented, which I don't think she needs more of. I think she really needs more damage. But now, once again, with Summer Tiamat, having party support means that Tiamat can buff her crits even harder. So that's actually a good thing now, in my opinion. She has a party 20% MP charge and overcharge +1, and party anti-good power mod, but only 30%, if you're wondering what the buff was. So yeah, it's pretty good. Unfortunately, my gacha results with her was really bad. I think actually the worst in recent memory. I had her at MP3 already, and I needed to pull for 3 more copies, and I spent 2,400 quartz for 3 copies, which was 800 per copy on average, which usually doesn't happen. Like, you get unlucky for 1 to 2 copies, and then the 3rd copy is usually going to sort of give you a comeback because of how statistics works, but I just got really unlucky with her, so it just, every copy was a struggle. But yeah, you know, I still got her to 120. You'll probably see her a lot more in the future. And, you know, I'm having a lot of fun with this character now. Speaking of Kiara, I also 120 the other one. She's actually my latest 120 servant. I did a super sudden decision at the last day of Grand Raids costing 0 storm pots just to 120 her. Because I thought I have so many grails given by the game and I just want to spend some of them. And Summer Kiara is a pretty obvious choice. I already had her at MP5, and I also just really like Kiara. She was already grailed to 100 as well, so she actually appeared in my video last year. Which, you know, I probably already told this story last year, but I just want to repeat it again because it's such a fun story. She was revealed during 5th Annie's Annie stream, but then after 5th Annie, I had to go into boot camp because I'm Taiwanese and there's conscription in that country. So I went into a 3-week training, I think, in boot camp. And every day we have 20 minutes of phone time only, just to call your parents and then sort of, get your mentals up, because, it's a little bit rough if you've never been to an environment like that. You're getting yelled by the drill sergeant every day. But then for one of those days, instead of calling my parents, I rolled for Summer Kiara to MP5. I got pretty lucky. I don't remember how much I spent because I was skip rolling the whole time because I only have 20 minutes. But it was really funny that I decided to call Kiara for basically therapy instead of my parents for one of those days, and it did make me feel better, actually. I felt just that much better whenever I get yelled by the drill sergeant, because I just tell myself, when I get out of here, I can play with my MP5 Summer Kiara. That is the level I was on at that time. But she actually served her role as a therapist, kind of, which is hilarious. I rolled for the last copy. I had to, because I only had 5 copies, and it cost like 500 quartz. It was actually pretty unlucky. I got spooked by another SSR during it, but I'm glad to see her summoning animation again. One of the cooler ones, one of the first ever special summoning animations in FGO, I believe, given to Summer Kiara, which is pretty surprising considering she's not an Annie servant. But yeah, I think she's super cool. Her gameplay, though, I think it's a little bit lackluster. I think she's definitely worse than OG Kiara at this point. It's just a very slow kind of requirement to ramp up her super effective, and someone like BB Dubai can do it immediately while having better, base effects on her skills as well. So I think Summer Kiara desperately needs a buff at this point. I think she kind of lost her chance because, OC3 was supposed to be Moon Cancer related, and the OG one got a buff instead of her. So kind of unfortunate, but, yeah, Kiara. Also, I want to say her ascensions are just so good. The police outfit is like one of the most like obvious fetish outfits in this game, but I think it fits because it's Kiara, and it looks so good. Like they've never brought out something like this, I believe, even on Summer Servants ever since Kiara. It's just so peak. I hope they do something crazy with Summer Koyan Sky if they ever release her as well, because Wadarko is a magician with her art. The next 120 is, of course, Koyan Dark. Everybody knows that I have her at 120. She appeared in countless videos and some of the biggest memes of my channel, such as Cuckoo versus Koyan, the whole divorce thing, and then, hopefully Koyan Dark gets a buff. All of those are, of course, stem from this character. She is my currently favorite character in FGO still, and I still try to use her in every challenge quest. But surprising enough, she hasn't seen a lot of play recently on my channel, I would say, simply because there haven't been a lot of new challenge quests coming out. We have a lot of events, actually. I think we have some of the most packed event schedules in recent memory, but it's just that a lot of them are Grand Raid related, so they end up not having challenge quests attached to them, so I don't have a lot of chance to use Koyan Dark. I'm currently working on a full gauge comma run with Koyan Dark without using a damaging CE, so look forward to that. I don't know how long it's going to take. I usually do these on and off because it takes a long time and it's difficult to do. But yeah, Koyan Dark is still going to be the main focus of this channel. Whenever a challenge quest happens, I'll use her, and whenever something new happens, I'll use her. If there's ever, a way to buff your servant even further, like the grand, system, of course, but maybe something even more, then I'll use it on Koyan Dark the first. It's always going to be Koyan Dark first. So you don't have to worry that she's gonna fall out of favor. Maybe unless they make a Summer Koyan Skya that I like the design of even more, but I doubt that's gonna happen anytime soon. Contrary to Koyan Dark, the next 120 is actually a brand new servant that I granted this year, just like Lilith. And this is a servant that I've been waiting for over a year and it's actually Typhon. Typhon Ephemeros, I've wanted her ever since she appeared in Ptolemy's Girlfriend event. I even pre-whaled like 2 to 3 packs, I believe, after seeing her in the story, because I was so convinced that she was going to be playable and she was just going to be Banner 2, but she ended up not coming out during her event. And then all the way until this year, early this year. She got released and I was obviously super stoked. It was right after Lilith as well, so it's not like I have a lot of leftover resources or quartz, but I just spent the money, and I think I also farmed a bunch of embers just to 120 her at that time. But yeah, you know, I've been waiting for so long. She absolutely deserves it, and she didn't give me a lot of trouble with her gacha either. I don't remember exactly how much I spent, but I didn't spend that much, I think, for MP6. So yeah, I think her animations are awesome, especially her third ascension. Like, it's a bit over the top. She's got like giant claws and wings, but for a dragon servant, I like over the top. I'm in a bit of a mecha fatigue in terms of servant designs, but Typhon's MP is the exception because we already know she was going to be a mecha dragon, and also it's just pulled out very well. It looks really cool. This half mechanical, half organic creature type design is my favorite, and Typhon nailed it. And her costume even turns the dragon white, and that's super cool as well. Gameplay wise, she's also really strong as a DPS. She has triple buster deck, and she has an MP that hits really hard that also scales with how many debuffs that she has on herself. So it's technically a universal anti-trait. Her own skill set debuffs herself. There's a command code that debuffs herself, and also there are a lot of bosses that can spam a bunch of debuffs on you that aren't really significant but can actually bolster Typhon's MP damage a lot. The grand class score for extra class 2 is basically completely stolen from Typhon's concept, because the entire grand score scales your damage depending on how much debuffs you have on yourself and on the enemies, but the on yourself part is definitely influenced by Typhon, which is surprising that I have not used her a lot, at least in terms of the period I've used her for. I've only used her like really concentrated when she came out, and then after her event ends, I kind of just dropped her. And the reason behind that is not because I don't like her, but it's more so that I have a lot of 120s that I like. I 123 brand new servants this year, and also she's a little bit too strong. Like, usually a lot of the runs that I expected to grind for a long time, like full gauge Kama, she kind of just destroyed. Like, I did the version with a Black Grail within 2-3 tries, and it was too easy for me that I removed the Black Grill and I still did the run within like a day. So I will try to use her more in the future. She's really cool. I've been waiting for her for a while, and she finally is out, so I'll definitely, you know, try to feature her more. But yeah, I think this video is also a good reminder that I have this 120 and I should cherish her more than I do right now. The next 120 is Summer Bavanshi, or Smob, actually the face of Smobcast. And you know, she's adorable. I love her. I love Bavanshi, and I think all 3 of her ascensions are peak. Her first ascension is very cute. It's Cernunos. Her second ascension is a perfect match to Tonalico, which is of course Morgan, so that's super cute. And then her third ascension is actually one of my dream ascensions for Bavanshi, which is what if she inherited Morgan's throne and became the queen. And that's kind of what they were going for, at least I believe, when they designed her third ascension. So I think she is one of the best like servants in terms of aesthetic designs across all 3 ascensions. Like, all 3 are just so good, and then embodies different aspects of this character that it almost tells a story, right? But I think I already had her at 120 when I made all my Grail Servants videos, so I'm not gonna go too deep into this character. She hasn't appeared in a lot of my recent videos simply because of her gameplay style. She's very anti-Minturn because she cripples the enemy's offenses to the point that they don't get to kill the esports servants, and she's more of a solo unit slash stall team unit. Definitely, if there are chances to showcase that kind of team, I will bring her out, because I think Bavanshi teams are some of the most interesting teams in the game. It's a stall team that doesn't involve the typical Castoria Solemn Defense spam, and instead focuses more on debuffing the enemy, which I think is super cool. And you can go infinite with double Bavanshi and cooldown reduction and all that. So yeah, in the future, I'll definitely try to feature her whenever I can. The next 120 I want to talk about is the newest servant released this year that I decided to 120. Probably also my most normie 120, as in many other people also has her 120. I'm of course talking about Olga Marie, and I don't blame anyone for 120ing her. When a character is built up for 10 years, yes, people are going to pull for her to MP5 and 120 her, especially during an anniversary where they gave out 1,000 and I think 600 free chords. So yeah, Olga Marie, absolutely the best option they could have picked for 10th anniversary. It worked out, even though they gave out like 1,600 chords. They made a bunch of money off of her as well. And yeah, just an amazing character. I think her aesthetics are wonderful. You know, Ascension 1 is a very pretty summer Ascension. I usually have a little bit of a problem, you know, with them stuffing a summer Ascension into their Annie servant, but I just really like this Olga Ascension. Like, it just looks good, so I have zero complaints. Her second Ascension is, of course, the classic U Olga Marie, and then the third one is base Olga Marie. Her gameplay is also designed very well. Her first Ascension is essentially an AoE version of CL, so really good for single core. And then her third Ascension is more of a multi-core supportive servant, so you can just pull for her and then have her perform a bunch of different roles in your roster. So I think Olga Marie was executed extremely perfectly from Lasengle's end, and I'm really glad that they got rewarded by people spending. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be cheering on you know, people spending so much money on a gacha game, but I think they really deserved it with Olga. You know, everybody really likes her, and including me. I've been waiting for her for a long time, so I immediately pulled for MP6. No, I actually pulled for MP5, and I bought the 6th copy, and then I 120 her. I was very drunk during the night when we were watching the anniversary stream, so I kind of didn't remember how much I pulled, but I checked the video back and it was an insane pull. I think I spent only 500 chords for like 5 copies, which is absolutely nuts in terms of luck. So of course I 120'd her without even hesitating. She's actually my fastest Bond 15 out of all of these servants I've ever owned, even faster than Lilith, because the Grand Extra raids came out practically during anniversary. So I Bond 15 her immediately during Grand Extra raid. She's also extremely enjoyable to use as a min-turn DPS, because she practically eliminates 2 of the most annoying aspects of min-turning, which is resetting for card RNG and crit RNG, since her first skill sets your entire hand to her deck and also gives you 50 stars. So yeah, it's really fun. She's also Buster, so when you pair her with Koyan Light, you get to use her first skill multiple times. So yeah, I think she is super cool as a min-turn unit. The only problem is there are so many other min-turn players that have her at 120 that will be sniping the first ever run of a challenge quest whenever a new one comes out. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep on using her as much as I did during the summer/anniversary period because of competition, but certainly an amazing character both in gameplay, in aesthetics, also super long awaited, super significant in the main story as well. And all her ascensions are amazing. Her special summoning animation is amazing. Again, I think this character was pulled off perfectly by Lasengle or Type Moon, whatever. And, you know, they deserve all the praise for Olga Marie. The last 120 I want to talk about is, of course, Draco. And I've had her 120 for a while, so she was definitely already 120 in my previous Grailed Servants compilation video. And she's a special one because she's the first ever Beast class servant released into FGO Mobile. And I have to admit, if she wasn't a Beast class servant, I probably would not have 120'd her. I've always been more of a Tamamo guy compared to Nero. But Nero is still very cool, and that Beast class really convinced me to do it. One of her bigger controversies is, of course, her third Ascension. Some people really didn't like it. They much preferred the full-on evil beast version in arcade. But I think the story makes sense for our Draco, or rather it's the same Draco actually, but the Draco we got at, you know, this point turns into a more redeemed final form as opposed to her full-on evil beast mode. And also, even though the burning swords woman type aesthetic already exists in Maonobu, I think Draco pulls it off pretty well, and all of her animations with her giant sword is very satisfying to use. She has 3 buster cards despite being an art servant, which is pretty cool as well. And I think she's one of my most used 120s because I really didn't have a high power single target DPS before Draco or after Draco until Lilith. So whenever I needed to just go in blind against a single boss or just include a single target in my farming, I naturally gravitate towards Draco. She's actually also a very fast Bond 15, especially in back in the day standards when Grand Raids didn't exist. I Bond 15 her during the really soon upcoming NA Guda Guda raids, I believe, with Kenshin's debut. So yeah, she's really good at that final raid because the final raid is a servant who has a defense up buff, which she has super effective against and can also ignore the defense with her skills. But yeah, Draco, one of, again, my old 120s, quote unquote, that I've used a bunch, that I sort of phased out in favor of Lilith nowadays, but still, I thank her for her service, and I will still try to include her in content whenever she can take advantage of her beast class. And finally, as you can see here, I have one more servant marked to showcase, which is going to be Assassin Carmilla. Yes, after everybody sort of making fun of it and also begging me to do it, I am going to 120 Carmilla, but I'm going to wait until the Grand Assassin raids where I have double EXP when I level up assassins, because I don't want to waste my embers. The only reason I have her at 102 right now is because I farmed too many of Noah's event raid that I have too many embers that I can't fit into both my second archive and my backpack. So some people called her a ember trash can, which I can't deny that I kind of did it because of it, but I am planning to full on 120 her, don't worry. I just have to wait until the Grand Assassin raids. I will probably still not grant her though, because my Grand Assassin is going to be Koyan Light, but Carmilla will finally get the justice she deserves as my first and favorite character in FGO. At least previous favorite character. I'm so sorry that I even said that. But at the end of the day, it is my profile pic on my channel. It is a plushie version of Carmilla, so I should definitely, at the very least, give her the honor of being 120. And I didn't unlock all of her appends, so I believe after some recent spooks, I have enough coins for her to be 120. But if I want to append all of her skills, I might need to pull for some extra copies. And I'm not sure if I want to go for it during the Assassin banner reruns, because permanent 4 stars give so little coins per copy that I probably need more than 2 to 3 copies still, which is very stupid, by the way. I hope Lysango changes that. But yeah, as of now, I will be very happy with her at level 120. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I actually revised this video multiple times. I tried to re-record different sections. I tried a more jokey script, which felt a little bit forced, so I just decided to ramble and then record whatever I said, and I'm gonna cut them together. Hopefully it's not too long, and basically just a casual video to pass the time while we're waiting for the brand new Guda Guda event that's coming this Wednesday. So yeah, see you guys in the next one, and thank you guys for watching.